It's been a while since I've done a video on MM2H, and given the fact that they've been taking applications for the latest version of the visa for close to a year, it seems timely to have a review of where it stands now. There have been a number of changes, minor changes to the rules, even with the latest version. What we've seen from talking to potential applicants is there's a lot of confusion about what the rules are. But that's actually not surprising, given the fact that over the years, there have been various iterations of this program. And even now, there are minor changes that are being made as they begin to experience the actual process of reviewing the applications. It's not helped by the fact that some of the websites have not been updated, so the information available to people searching is not current. And of course, some sites, social media sites, we see people giving wrong information. Add to that the fact that there are quite a few variations of the MM2H visa available in Malaysia, and it's easy to see why people are becoming confused. If you visit our main website, www.mm2h.com, you can see details of all the various MM2H visas available in Malaysia, and that will give you good information. And if it's not clear, there's a help desk at the website, so you can go there and find out all you need to know. We've successfully put in a number of applications for the latest version of the visa, and they have all been approved so far. There have been, as I said, a few minor changes to the program. So let me just have a very high-level review of where we stand right now. The biggest challenge, I think, for people to accept is the fact that the current visa is no longer regarded by the government as a retirement visa. They're looking at it as a visa that will contribute to the nation's economy in a very clear and upfront manner. So, in summary, you probably need to have about 250,000 US dollars to invest if you're going to join the program. So that eliminates a lot of retirees who don't have that kind of saving to put in. However, our research showed that that group did contribute a lot, not just in their daily living costs, but also in non-financial ways through the image they presented in Malaysia, which was positive in terms of foreign direct investment and, of course, encouraged tourism. We have suggested, I should say, that the current program has another tier aimed specifically at retirees, because there are certain things with the current program which turn off retirees, specifically buying a house, being told they have to sit on it for 10 years, even though if they leave the program, they can sell it. So these are negatives. But for the moment, there is no retirement tier. You have to qualify under the existing conditions. And if you have the money, it's quite easy to do so. So the first thing you need to understand is that the two eastern states, Sabah and Sarawak, have their own versions of MM2H. The Sabah program is aligned more closely with the national program. The Sarawak program is rather different. They both require about a 500,000 ringgit fixed deposit. Sabah requires you to purchase property. Sarawak does not. But in both cases, you are expected to live in those states, at least spend a minimum amount of time in them in order to qualify for renewal. Now, the national visa, which covers West Malaysia, has 3 tiers: silver, gold, and platinum. The first 2 require a deposit of 150,000 US dollars and 500,000 US dollars, respectively. So the fixed deposit you make, they want you to make it in ringgit, but at the exchange rate of the day. So the bank will say you have deposited ringgit 600,000, whatever it comes to, which is the equivalent of 150,000 US dollars as of the date you make the deposit. Now, the silver visa comes with a 5-year visa. The gold tier comes with a 15-year visa, but all visas issued in Malaysia are for a maximum of 5 years. So what the 15-year visa means is that you can be assured it will be renewed at the end of 5 years, and it's a much simpler process to get it renewed and extended. But you still only get 5 years chopped in your passport maximum. Now, we have to note that since the program started, there have been very few occasions where people have had trouble renewing the visa under the terms which they originally applied under. So if you joined under the old program, you're not expected to renew under the new program's terms and conditions. They will and are renewing visas for people who've been here for many years. Now, the third tier that's available in West Malaysia is the platinum level. And this was a departure from the previous visa because this one permits people to work. You have to put $1 million on a fixed deposit. You also have to buy property valued at over 2 million ringgit. But you get a 20-year visa and you're allowed to work and invest here. So it does come with extra privileges. None of the visas are a path to permanent residency. So that was originally implied when they first released the terms and conditions for the new visa, but it was subsequently revoked. Now, I mentioned earlier that you need about $250,000 in order to qualify for the visa. That's made up of 3 things. Firstly, you're required to purchase a property within 1 year of getting the visa obtained. And the minimum purchase price is $600,000, but some states have set higher minimums for properties purchased within their state, and that one takes precedence. And a lot of states are requiring properties bought by foreigners to have a price of over 1 million ringgit. The immediate requirement for cash is to place the fixed deposit. So if you join under the silver tier, you have to put 150,000 down. Now, you can withdraw half of that when you purchase a property. So with the purchase of the property and the half the fixed deposit, and finally the agent's fee, you're talking about $250,000 in total. The agent's fees vary depending on which particular tier you apply for, but they start at 40,000 ringgit. That includes a number of government fees which the agent's required to pay. There have been complaints that it's high, but those fees are set by the government and agents are required to comply with them. As I mentioned, when you buy a property, it has to be above the minimum set by the state. So if there's a variance between the minimum price set for the particular tier and the minimum price for the state, you have to comply with the state's rules. Some places have lower limits. For example, Penang has a lower limit for people with the MM2H visa. I think it's 600,000. Sabah also has a lower limit, 600,000. Sarawak, interestingly, is the only MM2H visa that does not require a property purchase. But as I said, you are expected to live in Sarawak. There is a lower cost option, and that is Forest City. Forest City is a large development on a reclaimed island, very close to the second crossing to Singapore. So if you want to get to visit Singapore, it's a convenient place to stay. However, it was originally targeted at Chinese nationals, but they brought in capital controls, sales dried up, and there was quite a few media reports that Forest City was a ghost city because it consists of quite a few high-rise apartments, and most of them have not been sold. The fact is, though, that part of that development is owned by Malaysians, and now there is a push to see the sales grow again, and there have been incentives added. The forest city development is in what a large area called the Special Economic Zone in Johor, which is encouraging foreign investment. And financial service companies which set up in Forest City will get certain benefits. In addition, the island has been declared a duty-free island, which is an added attraction. And you can buy a property there over 600,000. And the special MM2H visa for Forest City is only requiring a fixed deposit of 65,000 US dollars. And if you're over 50, it's 32,000 US dollars. So a much lower fixed deposit. And as I said, you can buy a small unit there, about 500 square feet, for just over 500,000 ringgit. So that does offer a much lower entry into the visa. You don't actually have to live in Forest City, but you do have to buy a property there. And unlike the other visas where you have 1 year to make the purchase, in the case of the Forest City Special Financial Zone MM2H visa, you are required to make the purchase before you have the visa endorsed in your passport. So you can wait until you get conditional approval for the visa. You then have to finalize your purchase and show that you've completed it before getting the visa chopped in your passport. So what are the problems with the visa? Well, I've mentioned that some people are turned off by the need to buy property, although I should point out that we have done extensive research on retirees who settled under the MM2H visa, and the majority of them, right from the beginning, decided to buy property. And of course, as I said, if you exit the program, despite the fact you are required to keep it for a minimum of 10 years before selling it, if you stay here with a visa, if you decide to cancel the visa, then of course you're free to sell it straight away. So retirees have told us they're a bit put off by these conditions, but the fact is, if they've got the money, then the visa is available. There's no question in my mind that Malaysia is a very attractive place for retirees. The widespread spoken English, the fact that the cost of living is about a third that of Australia or the UK and many other developed countries is very appealing to many people. The fact, the sunny climate, the good cuisine, the developed infrastructure, they're all factors which have attracted people to Malaysia for many years. So for people who perhaps own a house now and are willing to sell it and uproot here, it's a very attractive visa. So if your ties with your family are such that you're happy to see them once or twice a year when they come and visit or you return to your home country, there are people who have taken the visa and settled here very, very happily. If you like to go around for a family lunch every weekend, then clearly this is not the place you want to consider moving to. The survey, the last survey we did actually ask MM2Hers, did they plan to spend the rest of their life here or did they eventually expect they would return home? And the majority said they planned to spend the rest of their lives here, which I think is a very strong indication of how attractive Malaysia is as a place to settle. The government used to produce a report showing how many people were approved for the visa, which countries they came from. They don't do that anymore, so we only have limited information. But it's very clear that the current visa is very attractive to Chinese nationals because there are a sizable number who want to move out of China, and Malaysia is now an attractive destination to them. They're very often not retirees, and there is an issue to our mind of how many of them would come here with the intention of working, which is not permitted with most of the visas, only the platinum version. But that's really not an issue we have to address. Finally, let me just remind you that we've been publishing the Expat magazine for 30 years, and it's free to read online on our main website, expatgo.com. It will give a quite a good idea of what it's like to live in Malaysia. So every month we upload a copy, and you might find it interesting if you want to know more about the country. Also, of course, as I mentioned, our main website for Malaysia My Second Home Visa, MM2H.com, has a free help desk and lots more information. And if necessary, by all means, write to me directly. My email address is shown on the screen now. And until the next time, that's basically a wrap. So thanks for listening.